World Geography, Southwest Asia, Geographic Foundations. Here are the learning objectives. 1. Identify and describe the physical features of the region, including the Persian Gulf, Caspian Sea, Arabian Peninsula, Anatolian Plateau. 2. What is a choke point, and identify their locations throughout the region. 3. Describe the climate and vegetation of Southwest Asia. 4. What is the Fertile Crescent? 5. What methods are used to preserve precious water in the region? 6. Describe the different ethnic groups in Southwest Asia. Political maps. Here's a political map of Southwest Asia. You should pause here and identify some of the major countries in the region. Many of them you hear in the news nowadays. Countries like Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. On the inset map, you can see the tiny country of Israel. Here's another way of looking at the Southwest Asian region. You can see this continent and its position or its relationship to other nearby continents. Physical map. Pause here and study this physical map of Southwest Asia. You can see that there are mountains in Afghanistan and on into Iran. And there's a high plateau in Turkey, but there are vast deserts across the Arabian Peninsula. Physical features. Persian Gulf. The Southwest Asian continent, it's marked by contrasts, includes everything from dusty deserts to high peaks and large bodies of water. The largest body of water in the region is the Persian Gulf. It's nearly 600 miles long and it averages about 125 miles in width. Remember that a gulf is an arm of the sea that's partly surrounded by land. Here's a picture of the Persian Gulf from outer space. It's a arm of the sea wedged between mainly Saudi Arabia and Iran. At the very top is the country of Iraq. You can see that there's a little narrow passageway to get into the Gulf, and that's called a choke point. And we'll speak more about that in a few minutes. Caspian Sea. We've looked at this before when we talked about Central Asia and the Caucasus. On the southern end of the Caspian Sea is the nation of Iran. The Caspian Sea is the world's largest inland body of water. Its waters are salty, but not quite as salty as the ocean. It is home to both freshwater and saltwater fish. An inland sea is a large body of salt or freshwater with little or no connection to the sea. Peninsula and Plateau. The Arabian Peninsula occupies the southern part of the region. It's the largest peninsula in the world. The rugged Anatolian Plateau stretches across much of Turkey. Take a moment and identify the Arabian Peninsula, which includes the country of Saudi Arabia, but also several other countries like Oman and Yemen and the United Arab Emirates. Also identify the Anatolian Plateau in Turkey. Choke points. Definition. A choke point is a strategic area of the sea where ship traffic or other movement can become easily blocked. Vital choke points. The Suez Canal links the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, or the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean. The canal provides passage for 30% of the oil that arrives in the United States from Southwest Asia. Now wedged between Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula and Eritrea and Djibouti on the African continent, at the very southern end of the Red Sea, is another choke point called the Bab el-Mandab. Recently, pirates from Somalia roamed these waters and held ocean-going vessels and their crews captive for ransom money. More vital choke points. The Strait of Hormuz, which I pointed to earlier when we were talking about the Persian Gulf. It's located between Oman and Iran, and it's probably the most strategically important choke point in the world. 1/3 of all oil moved by a supertanker goes through this strait. And then alongside Turkey is the Bosporus, and this strait is only 1 kilometer wide at its narrowest point. Very narrow. It's the only link between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. On this map, you should be able to identify all the choke points that we just spoke about. You can see the Bosporus and a little tiny map zoomed in on that region. The Suez Canal, which was man-made to connect the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. The Bab el-Mandab, another choke point, the southern end of the Red Sea. And then the Strait of Hormuz, which connects the Persian Gulf out into the Arabian Sea and then to the Indian Ocean. Climate. Desert and semi-arid. Despite nearby seas, Southwest Asia is extremely dry. It has desert climate and semi-arid climate. A desert climate, remember, receives less than 10 inches of precipitation per year. And areas with a semi-arid climate, they do receive some rain now and then. In the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, temperatures can climb to 115 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. There's little moisture in the air, so the air cools rapidly at night. Mediterranean. In the coastal areas of Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and Iran, the surrounding seas create a more moderate Mediterranean climate. Summers are warm and dry, winters are mild and rainy. Climates of Southwest Asia. Look at this map closely, identify the climate subregions. You'll notice there's quite a bit of desert and even a little bit of highland climate if you look over towards Afghanistan. Vegetation. Desert scrub. The dry climate certainly limits the vegetation. Have a lot of desert scrub, or small trees and shrubs that can survive for long periods without rain. This desert scrub has adapted to the arid conditions in a variety of ways. Plants don't grow too close together. They try and pull water from a wide area. Some plants have long roots to pull water from deep beneath the ground. Other plants store rainwater in their leaves, roots, or stems. and during drought, some plants might shed their leaves to save water. Other vegetation. The types of plants growing in a particular place depend upon the combination of temperature and rainfall. For instance, temperate grasslands are found along the shores of the Persian Gulf and on the central Anatolian Plateau. Some of the hills and river valleys in the region have mixed forests of coniferous and deciduous trees. And then along the Mediterranean coast is chaparral. Here you have a vegetation map identifying the different types of vegetation in Southwest Asia. Water resources. Tigris and Euphrates. Two of the most important rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. These rivers have supported ancient river valley civilizations. Historically, the region was referred to as Mesopotamia. It was part of an agricultural region referred to as the Fertile Crescent. Today, the Tigris and Euphrates flow through parts of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. The rivers are parallel to one another before they join and empty into the Persian Gulf. Here you have a map of the Fertile Crescent. You can see that it stretches all the way from the Nile River in Egypt, all the way along the Mediterranean coast, and then down through Syria and Iraq and into the Persian Gulf. And it's making kind of a crescent moon shape. That's why they call it the Fertile Crescent. Jordan River. The Jordan River originates in the mountains of Lebanon and provides precious water. The river ultimately flows into the Dead Sea, which is a landlocked salt lake that's 9 times saltier than the ocean itself. The river acts as a natural boundary between Jordan and Israel. Precious resource. Different technologies are used to save water in the area. Some of the farms, especially the ones in greenhouses, use drip irrigation, which is the use of small pipes that slowly drip water just above the ground to conserve water that's used for crops. And Jordan and Israel are collaborating on a desalinization plant to remove salt from the waters of the Red Sea. Hopefully this will provide needed fresh water to the inhabitants of the region. Culture and languages. Ethnic groups. There exists a large variety of different ethnic groups in the region. You should be able to be somewhat knowledgeable about this. A lot of people think everybody is just in the same ethnic group, but actually there's lots of different peoples in this area. The majority is 350 million Arabs that live in Southwest Asia and North Africa. Their official language is Arabic. In Turkey, over 70 million Turks speak Turkish. In Iran and parts of Afghanistan, there are 60 million ethnic Persians who speak the Farsi language. And Afghanistan has almost 12 million Pashtuns who speak Pashto. Lots of different groups. Most of them are Muslims, but there are some different Muslim sects in the region who practice the religion in different ways that we'll talk about in a later slideshow. The end. Thank you for your time.